let's look at some of these awesome student projects here in After Effects, okay? So this one I thought was really great and had a lot of really clear animation and was really well done. There was just a couple points that I wanted to talk about. And I will say that the first thing that I'm going to discuss, I saw in almost every project, okay? And what I'm talking about is this arm here. When it goes to press the button, I think this is a really, really great place where you should probably put some big anticipation. So I want to talk about that for a sec, okay? Let's watch down this button press action, and let's just check that out real quick. Cool. So, I mean, it's a very clear action, and it's kind of got this weird but kind of nice thing where like the fingers spread out just as the button's kind of going down. It's got some subtlety in it, and I like that. But let me just say that the animator's job is to tell the story very clearly. That's kind of your first job. And the story here is about a keyframe being made and put into a box. And if we do not see that button being pressed, then we kind of miss an important part of the story. So it's just very important that the viewers see that button press. And that's what anticipation is all about. Anticipation and three-part action is all about making action on screen really clear for the audience, okay? So let's check this out a sec. This student locked all their layers, so let me unlock everything. They were really being careful about that. Okay, I can leave the background on. Great, so let's work on this arm a little bit. And let me figure out which arm this is. So this is R2, and okay, so let me grab these and press U. Okay, so here's the animation here for this. And I'm gonna definitely like mess this up a little bit to just sort of show this point, okay? So I apologize to this student. And let's see. Let's figure out the exact moment. Okay, so the button press is, well, okay, they already made a guide sort of there. It says pick up box, but I think that's about where the button press happens. So let me, okay. I'm just gonna take all these keyframes here and let's see. I'm gonna shove these all down, okay? And it's gonna definitely break the animation a little bit, but it doesn't matter just for the sake of this demonstration, okay? So the arm right now kind of goes here, and the way I shove those keyframes back, that now it's kind of like moving down over a long period of time. But what I actually think I want is for this to kind of, I'll even move this. I'm even gonna move these keyframes down here too, so I just have a nice clean space, okay? So here we are. Right now, this is kind of drifting, and I think what I'd want to do is just put like a 4 or 5 frame pause in there. So let me copy and paste these keyframes real quick. So now that just kind of chills. And now what I'd want this to do is first, for an anticipation, if it's going to press down, what we want to do first is have the arm move up and then pause, okay? So let's build that out. And let me go ahead and I'm going to turn on some guides here. And actually, I'm going to clear those guides, and I'm just going to put one guide right here, kind of in the center of this. And the guides are locked. Let me turn that off and put that right here in the center, and now I can lock that again. Cool. That'll just help me line everything up. So here is this. So what we want it to do first is move kind of up and anticipate out of the way. And actually, let me move this down a little bit first here. Just so we have more room, I think, for the anticipation. Okay, and let me turn this, I don't know, like this, and I'll turn the wrist to something like this. Okay, and I can, rotate this back, and rotate this a little bit that way, and this down a little. It's always such a pain to get this lined up, as you all know from having just done this. So let me get this to a good spot. Okay, like that. That's pretty good. Right, so it's kind of like right above the button here. And actually, I'm gonna just copy and paste all these there too, because I like that position better. So there's my little pause. Okay, so I got that, and it looks like there's also, well, whatever. I'm just gonna make these hold keyframes just so that's not bugging me. Okay, cool. So here we go. So we're starting the animation right here. And let's have this now move up, okay? Draw itself up. And let me figure out the timings a little bit. 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know. That's probably too much, but we can adjust that later. So I will, let's see. I'll take my arm 1 and I'll rotate this away. And then I'll rotate this up, and just try to get this into a position here. That's not so bad. Okay, cool. So maybe something like that. So did that work? Yeah, that's a nice big pull up. Okay, so we got that. It pulls up, okay, and then it's definitely going to pause here. And we might be able to do this just with the interpolation, or we could try to put some keyframes in here. Okay, so there's our, it goes up and it pauses, okay, and now we're going to have it move down. And it wants to hit the button right about here. That's where the button is moving down, okay? So I don't want to mess up her timings too much. So what we want to do now is have this kind of stab down really quickly. And the way I would do that is rotate this down, and this down again. And let me rotate this and like that. Okay, something like that, because it's got to press beyond where the button actually is, right? So it kind of draws up and then presses down, okay? And what I can do is change the timings on the button press a little bit. Here's a really good trick. What I could do is sort of right-click on my layer and go down here to select and then stopwatch button. And now that's selected, but obviously we have like a ton of layers in here, and like just so you don't know where that is, you can press the keyboard shortcut for finding the layer is X, and then it moves it up to the top. I mean, it doesn't move it up to the top of the stack, it just rolls everything up so that that's the top layer up here. So that's convenient. And then if you press U, you can see the position here. So, okay, so I would start this position animation here. Right, so the button starts being pressed there. 1, 2, 3, and looks like, I think 3 frames fine, and this could move, it can move down even like that, right? And then it's gonna move up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, that's probably fine. And I'm gonna put some ease on that right now, and we will adjust those timings in a moment. And let's see. So the other thing about the arm is after it stabs down, we want it to come up, and pretty quickly too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, something like that. And now it can come up not as far as the anticipation, but just, up so that it completes the action of pressing the button. So let's see. Let me rotate this away and this now up and the wrist down like that or whatever. Okay, so just in terms of the beats, here's our animation. It goes up, down, presses the button, and comes back up, right? And just for now, I'm gonna let's see, I'll just copy and paste these. Whoops. I just don't want to have any movement on that afterwards. Again, I've broken the animation here, but in order to just demonstrate this. Okay, so now let's watch this with linear keyframes. Okay, and get the timings right. All right, you can already see that it's definitely clearer action. Let's see, but the timings are pretty slow. So let me go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on the up. Oops. Okay, and then let's make the down a lot quicker. Oh, actually, I'll do that by moving this so I don't have to adjust the button timing. Okay, so right away there, you can kind of see that it's just like a little bit clearer and a little bit better, right? Okay, so now let's just take these and work these in the graph editor just for a sec. Okay, and let's work these in the speed graph, because that's a crazy mess. All right, so here we go, speed graph. And what we want here, again, is for it to, oops, I actually have more keyframes than I remembered. This is the draw up starting here. So up, okay, and then pause. And so in order to increase this pause, what we can do is we can kind of pull these handles out here. Certainly these handles here. Something weird is happening. What's happening? Rotation, 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 position, position. It is not liking my rotation and position being together, but there, looks like I figured it out now. Okay, whoops, wrong side of that. So what I'm just trying to build is a pause in here, right? So that when it pulls up, it pauses, and then it's gonna stab down quickly, right? So on this stab down here, we do want this to be moving fast and not necessarily pause here a lot. I'm actually gonna have it kind of bounce up quickly and then sort of take some time gaining back the speed. So I would have this look like this, boom, right? Really clear, boom, button press, okay? And just to complete that, let's also look at that button for 1 sec, which was all the way down at the bottom. Okay, so this now goes, now it's a little early because I guess I changed the timing. So let me move this back 1 frame. Okay, change the timings a bunch. So let me shove both of these back. Okay, so it's like this, and then that. Okay, good. I think that's good, but now let me change this. So what do I want here? I want the button to go down pretty quickly and then to pause at the bottom and then definitely snap back up. So I think the timings are pretty good. This could move a little bit like that, start a little sooner, and then this pause is where I want it to really hang. And then I will have it kind of move quickly and settle again, all right? So let's check that out. Might be a little exaggerated, but I think that's kind of fun too. At the very least, I think you can really see that action now, right? It definitely feels like pretty deliberate. So that's definitely what I would do in that. But again, that's a little bit of an advanced move, and so I wouldn't necessarily have expected you guys to put that in, but I did see that in a lot of the projects. One other really little tiny thing that I wanted to talk about here that I actually did see in a bunch of other projects as well was just be careful with the layer order on certain things like this, because this keyframe, like, look, the way they look here in the box and the way this looks is different. And what's clear to me is that the keyframe is supposed to be on top of the box layer. So, again, I'm going to totally mess this up. Is this the one? Yep. So, and here's my empty box there. So if this was on top of this, it would look like that, which is more the way it's supposed to look, although it should be down like a couple more clicks, I think. So I would probably also drop that just down like that. Just trying to make it look as much as possible like the other ones, all right? Okay, here's another student project, and this one's also really awesome. And actually, the reason I wanted to bring this up is not necessarily because there was anything I wanted to change about this project, but to show you something a little bit different that somebody did, okay? So the way that I showed you how to rig these arms works great, and it's totally fine and totally adequate, and it's, beginner level. Now, there are definitely other ways of rigging things in After Effects that involve kind of third-party software or whatever, and this student used one of those, and there's a number of them, but actually what they used is kind of the most advanced one, and it's called Duik. Duik like this, D-U-I-K. And without getting too technical, IK stands for inverse kinematics, and the do, I believe, refers to the first couple of names of the first couple letters of the guy's name who made it. I believe his name is Nicholas Dufresne. So this is Do-IK, okay? And the robot arm system that we used is an FK rig, which is called forward kinematics. And you don't really have to know what all these mean, but the cool thing is that the way that this student rigged this arm, so for example, this. Now you can kind of see here that he's got these controllers, and there are these sort of faint colored boxes, this little null object around here, okay? And believe it or not, let's see, if I press U, I'm just gonna go someplace where there's no other keyframes, and I'm actually gonna, I think, go to my view options and turn off the motion path, so this is just a little easier to see right now, okay? So the way that this student rigged this arm is not with parenting and anchor points. But check this out. The arm now will move kind of wherever this controller moves and nowhere else. Like, it won't stretch, and it has a really nice animation to it. And what you can do is you can actually like get up into these kind of, all these controls up here and turn it so that it bends the other way. And actually what this student did was really advanced. They used a whole bunch of linking expressions and super parenting to determine, like, for example, the opening of the claw, okay? Which this is actually not that hard to rig up. And he also did the sliding position on here, and I believe that the wrist also had there's a wrist angle control here. So this is just really this student took it to the next level. This is what rigging looks like at a professional level. So I just wanted to talk about that for 1 second and just show you that there is the way that we did it is the most basic way, and it's in a way it's kind of the most annoying way to animate but it's the easiest way to set up, because this whole setting this system up with Duik is fairly complicated, and I don't think it's something that I would do in a basic class, okay? But I'm really glad that this student showed us that this can be done, and I think this is a really instructive thing for all of us, all right? Let's talk about the final student project that we're going to with the Wow Factory. Again, this student did a great job. I thought they did an awesome job with all the animation, was actually really lovely. I wanted to point out two small kind of housekeeping errors that I noticed in here, and they're both pretty simple. The first is, you can kind of tell right away that something's up with this. If you know what the art looks like, you can see that it's kind of wrong here. There's supposed to be the way that these have the light colored circles in the middle, those circles are supposed to be kind of here and in all these other places, and you can actually kind of see that like they're kind of there and this is a little bit off and stuff. So at first I thought this might have been kind of a rigging error, but it turns out it's much simpler than that. It's just a layer order thing. So let's see. For example, if we look at this one, this is my arm 2. And I think all that we need to do is take, let's see, the wrist and fingers and move it above, and then take arm 2 and move it above arm 1. Yeah, that's all it was, is that the layer orders got messed up here. And, again, that's a really easy error to make. Anybody could do that. The one thing I would definitely stress to you is when you're working with other people's art, that they designed, you should always just be conscious of keeping it consistent with what they designed, okay? So just while you're doing all the animation and all the other much more complicated stuff, keep your eye on this sort of basic, easy things like putting your layers in the right order so that the artwork looks good, okay? So that's definitely one thing here. And then, the only other thing that I wanted to talk about were, if you look at the dials here. Now, this student did a great job, actually, with all these little sliders and dials. I thought they did a fantastic job animating that. But what you see is that the dials, they're like kind of rotating like crazy in some weird way that I don't totally understand. And I just want to shift around the anchor point and show you how that could look a little bit different and maybe a little bit better. So what I'm going to do is, again, right click on this, right? Select dial 1, okay, and then press X, and that moves that layer up to the top, okay? And now I can press U. All right, and okay, this student used an expression to make the rotation, which is great. That's totally awesome. Let's go to a place at which it's completely straight up. And what I want to do now is, okay, there's no guides, I don't think. Right. So now let me drop some guides in. I want to try to find the exact center of this circle as best as possible, okay? And that might require, a little bit of trial and error here. Sometimes it's pretty hard to see. I think that looks pretty good there. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is lock my guides and get in here and just move the anchor point here, there, and just make sure that it really snaps into that point there. Okay, and now let's see if I pull back a little bit. Does this now look better? Yeah, right? You see, you can kind of compare the way the two are animating here, right? And you see that is that this sort of looks really nicely, like it kind of describes the circle as it rotates, and this one just kind of goes a little wacky and does some like kind of funny stuff there, right? So again, just two housekeeping errors here. Not even errors, just maybe a little bit of an oversight. Again, this student did a great job on their animation. This is definitely one of the best pieces. I just wanted to point out these little housekeeping things, okay? So thank you all for your hard work on the Wow Factory. This was a challenging project, and I think you guys all did an amazing job, and I'm super proud of the work that I'm seeing here. So thank you.